everybody. Welcome to the Going Analog podcast, the show where board game industry guests bring their own topics and games to discuss, usually. I'm Christina, your host, and today is a special podcast. So last year, the American Tabletop Awards, or ATA, asked Going Analog to be part of its selection committee. So we'll be diving deep into the very recently announced on Tuesday 2024 American Tabletop Award winners and recommended and nominees and all the games, basically, in this episode. So we've asked content creator Eric Yurko of What's Eric Playing and one of the main committee members of the ATAs also to discuss this with us. So Eric's also my Board Game Arena nemesis, so welcome.
Yeah, we've got a blood feud. It's great. It's like one of the highlights of my Board Game Arena experience.
Yes, all of that venom and the ATTAs.
There's a lot of like fist shaking.
Extra tea. Yeah, I always forget the extra tea.
It makes it look like a table.
I know. And then now I remembered it once I said that because Shu was passive-aggressively telling me I forgot.
Yeah, I wrote a little note. I'm like my little notes are like, it's ATTA.
You could just say it out loud and correct me when I said it. It's okay.
I also think it's funny because we're actually recording this well before any of the things you just mentioned. So you're holding Eric to a Tuesday announcement now.
That's true. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm always on time.
If it hasn't happened, okay, we'll see. See behind the scenes here. So you have to follow through because I've committed you to it. So congratulations.
Yeah, that's fine. I've been committed to worse things.
So welcome back to our podcast. You've been on it before. We really have a lot of games to discuss. And of course, Shu is the Going Analog main liaison for the ATTAs also. So here he is.
Hello.
You should have corrected me earlier, so I will blame you for this now.
Yeah. And then this time, like we did say, Christina and I were going to consult on how we're going to vote as Going Analog for the ATTAs. But Eric's emails and polls came through while we were in Mexico. And I was squeezing them in between other things. I just Eric's like, we need this by Friday. And then so I'm just like, boom. Let me look at these. And then let me.
This means he voted without me.
Yeah.
At all. So if you agree with these awards, then that's thanks to you. If you don't agree, then, it was probably because I didn't vote. Sorry, everybody.
Oh. Well, we're one of many voters.
No.
So we're one of
it's
many
because
judges,
of you and me only.
Like I said, though, I think relitigating the awards is honestly the most fun of the awards generally. Because, like I said last year, right? Since it's a ranked choice voting process, there will be titles on there that even I'm like, oh, I wanted the other game to win. And that happens sometimes.
But they are very great games that made it to the short list, of course. So we will be talking about these today. We will be relitigating and giving very strong opinions, I think.
Can you give listeners a brief idea of the different categories that we'll be discussing?
So our categories will be for early gamers, casual games, strategy games, and complex games. So something for everybody here, yes?
Yeah. And then what we could do is let's start with the early gamers, and then maybe Eric, can you help remind everybody or kind of explain what defines an early gamer game?
Yeah. So early gamers is it's kind of an umbrella category. So it's I often think of it as for me the earlier part of game night. So when I'm warming up, sitting down with folks, getting ready to play something, what kind of game am I looking to? Or for folks who are new to gaming in some way and are looking for a good game to get into the tabletop hobby. So it's kind of an umbrella term that'll cover everything from your games that are more kid focused, your games that are more family focused, your games that are party games, or your games that are lower on the complexity end overall. So something quick and snappy.
All right.
That's funny because I like to play those games at the end of the night. They're always
That is also a very good time for them, though. I like to think of it as my complexity kind of goes in an arc, and by the end of it, I always tell people I'm not learning a new game after 9 p.m. It just causes too many problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's not that complex, I like playing 3 of these at once during the middle of my night. So that's what I do. Yeah.
I once played a game of Burgle Bros and a game of what was it called? It was an old Apotheca, the Secret Potion Society. It was an old Renegade title. And I was playing them both at the same time against my coworker. And it was bad playing a cooperative and a competitive game at the same time with somebody. We just got very lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, these we have played almost all of these ourselves. So let's talk about the, I guess we'll work from nominated up. How's that sound? Just to talk.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So nominated were Turbo Kids and Maple Valley. And then recommended were Chicken, of course with an exclamation mark, and Deep Dive, while our big winner was Blob Party.
Right. So let's spend most of our time talking about the winner and recommended, but quick thoughts on nominated. I actually haven't played either of those, Turbo Kids and Maple Valley.
Oh, we should play Turbo Kids sometime.
It sounds like a kid's game.
It's sublime. To be fair, I am generally of the opinion, so quick thing for Turbo Kids is that it's a sort of family-friendly but everyone game where you're trying to... You're basically driving around. It's a 2-player driving game, Mario Kart Double Dash style. But each team of 2, one player drives with the marker, but they have to keep their eyes closed. They keep their thumb up in front of them. The other player puts their hand around their thumb and uses it like a joystick to tell them where to go and how fast to go.
This sounds amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, the publisher Scorpion Masqué, in my opinion, has never made a bad game. Scorpion Masqué is one of the few publishers I will say consistently doesn't miss. So, they've made all sorts of party games I like Stay Cool, Masterword. They've made games that are a little bit on the more complex side. I mean, Decrypto is a pretty common, popular favorite. I mean, even Sky Team, which I quite enjoy. But I think Turbo Kids is a delight. It was probably close to my top pick, yeah.
I was judging it based on name alone, so... Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
what did you learn about that shoe?
It's very silly. There's a map where you have to make a jump, and in order to make the jump, the driver has to lift the pen from the paper and place it down again on the other side of the ramp for the jump to be successful. It's an incredibly...
That sounds awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, have you played Telestrations Upside Drawn?
No, I've played regular Telestrations. I think we called it Pictophone when I was in college. It's just one of those things.
This has very little to do with regular Telestrations. They're just the app, the publisher, just basically used the name because regular Telestrations is so popular. I think they're just leaning on that name to kind of help sell copies. But it's an awesome game. It's a team-based game where you and your partner, one person has to hold a marker on the dry erase board, right? They're just holding the marker upright, and then the other person is moving the board underneath them to draw. So, if Christina's holding the pen, the marker, I would say, down. So she has to put her pen down and touching the board, and then I'll move the thing to draw, and I'll be, up. So then we could create space. So it's sort of like Etch-a-Sketch in a way. Well, no, that's a bad example. But, you get the idea. It's just, it's sloppy. It's really crude. No one can draw that way well, and then everyone's racing. You're racing with other teams to try to get to the secret word first, to try to get the pen holder and other team members to guess what the magic word is.
That gives me a lot of anxiety. Word. I'm not sure why, but it just fills me with dread.
I think kind of the same idea. It's going to be messy, it's going to be ridiculous, but someone will guess it, and then everyone will look how on earth did you get hospital out of this crude? It looks like a jumble of rocks or something like that. So. Anyways, it's a lot of fun. It kind of reminded me of that.
And then back onto the actual award winners.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the 2 recommended. First, Chicken. Yeah, we covered that on the show before. This is a dice rolling game where you're kind of pushing your luck. You're trying to see how many points you could score without busting by rolling too many foxes, right? I think it was the foxes that were the bad
the foxes will eat your chickens.
Yeah. But then there's a couple of expansions that they can add, but... it's a really light game. You could play it in probably 10 to 15 minutes.
Games,
yeah, you're throwing dice do I want to roll again? Oh, crap, I busted. Next person goes. And then you're just but you start adding more dice from the middle area, and it gets the dice rolls crazier and crazier, and you can really kind of push your luck. And then, and it's a race. It's just a race to, I think, 25 points.
The art style's great. It's a Keymaster game. I love the look of it, and it's just fun and stupid.
Yeah, it's... Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you played it, Eric.
Oh, yeah, no, I have played it. I was going to say it's kind of interesting that both Chicken and Deep Dive are kind of push-your-luck games. Just in the... I guess they're both bird-themed push-your-luck games, so they really got a monopoly on this strata of the award this year.
Yeah.
And both of them so close to winning, but not quite there. So our winner is Blob Party, which...
let's talk about Deep Dive real quick.
Okay,
We didn't really
sure.
talk about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can introduce that one very quick. Your penguins that are diving for fish. You can basically every turn you'll dive a level deeper, and you can flip a tile. If it's a predator, you get predated, and your penguin is stuck there until they all get stuck, and then you have to
It's not stuck; it's eaten.
Oh no, okay. They come back. So it's sort of like
regurgitated. Okay.
Yeah, there's a Pokemon Cramorant that'll dive into the water. When it resurfaces, it can occasionally get a Pikachu stuck in its craw, and I think it's kind of like that. Why was the Pikachu in the water? Don't worry about it. But yeah, so it's similar in that you're kind of going deeper and deeper and deeper, and the points go higher and higher and higher the deeper you go. But you're also still pushing your luck in that the deeper you go, the more predators there are. We found it was very helpful to just yell as a group "predated" when someone got predatored.
Predated.
Just predated.
Okay.
And then it was next player.
And so Block Party did win, which was also our Going Analog game of last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
really?
that was the
No
one.
kidding.
Game.
Yeah, well, in the kind of light party game.
Yes.
category.
Yeah, no,
party
it's.
game.
I like Blob Party a lot, right? And like, I guess for context, though I assume your listeners are familiar with it, if it was your game of the year already, but it's the.
Oh, we should still
Yeah.
explain it.
No, they've memorized everything about
I was going
our
to
show.
say, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a hot minute for me, but it's, you have a group of players that are all divided, that are trying to guess the same word given a topic, and as you guess the topic, you combine your little blobs to become progressively bigger and bigger, like clay blobs.
Yeah, it's sort of like a little Family Feud in terms of like how would you answer this. So the prompts are two cards. Like one, I think they call it the here's the word and here's the genre, for example. So it might be like
there it is.
Television and animal. I don't know if these are real cards in the game, but television and animal. So we're all writing on our whiteboards. What would that remind us of? Like maybe someone might write.
The bear.
The bear.
Mine went Garfield immediately, and that would have gotten me matched with nobody.
Yes.
Or
you
like
sit alone. Of
Blue
course.
Planet or something like that.
Right.
So then you reveal, and then it's a cooperative party game, and then everyone who matched will become a bigger blob. We're all individual blobs, and then you form into a bigger blob. Your hope is within, I think, 7 rounds that the entire group will become one blob. So you're right that it's like disparate groups become small clumps and small teams. You might even have situations where it's like 6 people on one team, another person on their own team, another person on their own team. Eventually you hope that, and then that team will, in the next round, will answer as one. The individuals will answer as one, and then eventually you hope to get to one party.
I remember quite fondly us being a team of everyone minus one person who just kept yelling at the one person for guessing stuff that was too esoteric.
Yeah,
It was a good
That's
time.
how that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played with Christina's mom, who I love playing party games with because she can
She's
speak
favorite.
English, but she's not first generation. She wasn't born here. She was born in Vietnam, but her English is pretty good, but not perfect. So she just is slightly off on everything and not on the same wavelength as the rest of us. So any games where you're like trying to like hive mind, where you're trying to think like the group and everything like that. It's so funny playing with her because what was the example was like blue and superhero or something like that, and then
She picked the Hulk, basically.
She picked the Hulk.
That's all.
the very green Hulk, not the blue Hulk. There's no blue
I was going
Hulk.
to say, famously no blue Hulk. There have been a lot of... There might have been some like
Red Hulk.
I was going to say, some like Marvel, like Die Hard is going to now just comment.
Yeah.
So actually, there was a blue Hulk in 1971. I'm going to be like, that's
Exactly.
That's embarrassing, but not for me.
And
Have you tried
for
medium
Blob-
with her?
Yes. My mom loves to cheat also.
Oh, good.
So that one very, very overtly, I was her partner, and she just kept whispering the words she wanted me to say, like, during our turn. And I was like, that's, everybody's here, Mom. We can see you cheating.
Yeah.
I think
So,
the only time that it's okay to cheat is if you're being absolutely flagrant about it.
Yeah.
Like
that's my mom.
if you're being flagrant about it and the group doesn't bully you into stopping, well, you like it's like downforce. You had a stronger will than they did. So
Yeah, they're always like light party games, and it's always kind of funny. So we kind of we'll scold her, but it just doesn't, like, I don't know. She just has a different attitude about cheating and
It's just a
party.
game.
yeah.
But
Sorry.
Blood Party, pro tip. don't need to stop at the number of players that they say, right? Like Grant, our friend Grant Rodiak, played this...
Grant Lyon.
Lyon. Oh no, that's the wrong Grant. Grant Lyon, obviously content creator. He played like 100-person blob party at a con, and they had a great time.
Oh, that
So
sounds
there you go.
amazing. Honestly,
I know, right?
That was gonna be my only complaint, is that I was like, I kind of wish I could play it with more people.
You totally can.
It's not good at low player counts. It's less designed.
Grab some just one, boards and stuff like that. Everybody has a good time.
Or just have someone have someone play it actually Family Feud style, where you have like one player who's written a bunch of questions, and so you actually like throw out a question to the group,
idea.
and then you have everyone slowly come together on the questions. Like
that's a cool idea. Yeah.
I do think Blob Party is one of those really interesting games where a single component really elevates the entire experience. Right?
I think so.
I have no problems with the design, but I'm not as convinced that we would be talking about this game as like the winner for early gamers if it weren't for the fact that you were literally just smushing some clay blobs with like silly eyeballs together, because that really it really takes the game up a like full notch in terms of overall.
I think so. See, Shu learned it we both played it the first time without the clay, and Shu still really liked it. And then we bought the game. He wanted to play the first time without the clay. I was like, no, what are you talking about? There's clay here. Everybody wants to play with clay.
There's also small googly eyes.
I know.
Yeah, that's like a cute, completely unnecessary part of the game. But Grant Lyon taught it to us, but he ran it something like 10 players, which is like more than what the box can support.
Right.
He's just like, you don't have to follow this. You just like grab any piece of paper or whiteboards from other games, and then you could just play as many people as you need to. So that's how I learned it. And you
get like 20 or 30 like quadruple XL bright red T-shirts, and just as you get on the teams, you just slowly get your own T-shirt that matches everyone's color.
Everyone changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We
I thought it would be fun.
So we bought a copy after he showed it to us, and I forgot a little bit later. I pre-ordered it or something like that. I ordered it online, and then I ordered it again, and I forgot that I did this. And then my friend later that I did this group order with, he brought me a copy of Blob Party. I'm like, wait, I already have this. Why? He's like, you ordered it with me. So we got 2 copies, but are like, oh, this works out because we want more whiteboards anyways. So the more the better.
And more clay now. So we're good.
I mean, I have 2 copies of Just One for the same reason, right? Like, we would play like 14-player Just One at cons until like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, that's cool. I should try that. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
quick question.
I could talk about Just One all day, so don't let me.
If you were to make your own picks for this, who would be your winner of the 5 games we just discussed?
Of the 5 games we just discussed, tough. Because I was going to say my winner would have been, I think, Drop Bolter, which didn't even make the top 5. Some people are just wrong
I
about
meant from this 5, because otherwise we'd have to go back and look at the bigger list.
Oh, I know. I'm just sad about Drop Bolter, but that's not here or there. I mean,
Turbo Kids, Maple Valley, Chicken Deep Dive, or Blob Party.
Honestly, between the 3, I'd say my top 3 of them are probably Blob Party, Turbo Kids, and Deep Dive, though not in that order. And I don't have any problem with Blob Party in the slightest. Like when I saw it bubble out of when I saw the script output, how everyone's vote tallied up, I was like, oh yeah, Blob Party, that makes sense. Like, it's a very solid title. I like it a lot.
It's good for parties.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just think that
Christina?
appeals to a lot of folks and has...
Yeah.
I think it just gets the most play. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that was my vote for the American Tabletop Awards. And then, see, I knew what you'd be thinking.
Still upset.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, but that was my pick as well. That's my favorite of the bunch. I think Chicken would be my close second. I wouldn't have been unhappy if Chicken won.
I'd be interested in trying more of the Chicken expansions. I just want to make sure that I want to go another couple rounds with it, because when I go for push your luck games, I tend to want to go. I want to go big and go home, and I know you can do it in Chicken, but I kind of want to do it constantly. Like, I'm always rolling a ton of dice and cubitos when it's ill-advised. I'm like I want to die on my own terms in a push your luck game, and there's something very appealing about that.
And next we have casual games. So our casual games were nominated. The two nominated were Fit to Print and My Island. Recommended were Dwarf Romantic, the board game, and Next Station Tokyo. And the winner was Sea Salt and Paper. So,
I mean, this is a strong category. Casual games is always a strong category, just because I think that, like, there's just always a lot to play here. But, man, I do love Fit to Print. I think Fit to Print is just a really solid, interesting game that hits something in my brain different than a lot of the flat-out titles. I still love Cascadia. Cascadia is still my number one, but Fit to Print is a a real-time newspaper creation game split into two parts, where the first part of each round you're drawing tiles out of the center and putting them on a tiny little desk, and then the second part when you're printing, you take the tiles, you try and fit them into your magazine or your newspaper layout, with the understanding that any tiles you can't fit are negative points, and you have to try again next round. So add in a few like per round effects and some rules about how you can place things, and you've got a game that was very clearly designed by Pete McPherson, where it was just like, oh yes, he designed Tiny Towns, which has the same thing of like, I've made a mistake and now I shall pay for it forever. And I've talked to him before, and he said that that's one of the things he really wanted to bake into both experiences, and it really shines through.
he wants you to have regrets.
Yeah, so many regrets.
And Christina, you and I are very early in our My Island campaign.
Yes, very early. But we did play through My City completely during pandemic.
The predecessor.
So, the predecessor, and this is the sequel, where we're also polyomino placing, but it's legacy, but also very light. So,
well, they're hexes now.
there are hexes.
Yeah. Right?
It's been a few weeks since we've played it. So
I think you're
can't
just
remember.
putting one hex at a time. Yeah.
Oh. No, there were like different sets. I don't remember.
I'm like secretly waiting for it to come to Board Game Arena, because I got all of my City plays on Board Game Arena during like the height of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then I just finished up 2 campaigns of My City Roll and Build, again on Board Game Arena. And there's just something very nice about having a legacy game that's entirely on Board Game Arena, because I don't feel the same sense of like, oh no, now I've destroyed something.
Wait, you can play Board Game Arena, lets you track your progress and all the permanent changes and
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could. I didn't know Board Game Arena had that capability.
Oh yeah, it's lit, because they'll just treat every game of the campaign as rounds. So they'll do it for the crew.
A really long async.
Yeah, it's just an incredibly long async. Like it took us maybe like 3 months to get through My City Roll and Builds campaign, and that's only 12 games.
Yeah. So Christina,
they're hexes,
yeah,
but they are in different shapes.
They're
not
clumps,
a single hex.
different groups of
okay.
like a
So
like
you're
a
both
row
wrong
of 3.
way.
Yeah.
No, we're both right. We're both right.
Yeah,
in a way.
Eric. Oh my god.
I was waiting to see if you're going to let me get away with that.
This guest.
You're on our podcast.
Right.
Sit down.
So wait. So tell our listeners what My Island is.
Yeah, so my island is also sort of like a tile placing game where you're building out an island, a deserted island, but now instead of polyominoes that look like Tetris pieces, they are clusters of hexes with different terrains. And as you are building it out, the rules change and add on as you are trying to keep track of how well you do over time. And then that if you're doing really well, then the other players have some catch-up mechanisms, things like that, and the rules are changing a little bit here and there.
Yeah, it's like a very, very light legacy game that with like permanent changes between rounds, stickers that you'll add to your board that other players might not have, and then you just try to see who does well throughout the campaign.
Yeah. We like it a lot as like a palate cleanser, end of night, like play a couple rounds after we've played a heavier game with the same group. So it's been pretty fun.
That's nice.
And then, Eric, have you played, so the first recommended game, Dwarf Romantic, the board game. I've only played the video game, but I've never played the board
I actually
game.
quite like the board game. I think the board game the board game has something in it that I think is sublime. I was talking to some other designers about it. But, so Dwarf Romantic, the board game, right, is you're building out a little village, and much like the video game, you're going to draw tiles, you're going to place tiles to kind of build out. Since the video game has the benefit of being computer generated, they can randomly create tiles based on a variety of input factors. Here, that's not necessarily the case because we only have a finite number of tiles, so the tiles are kind of what they are from game to game. But what's interesting here is you have tasks, and in the video game, it'll progressively increase the number on how many trees in a forest you need to have before you complete the task. Can't do that in the board game, so the board game is, you'll usually have, like, I think it's 4, 5, or 6 on a task tile, and you'll add that little token to the tile, and you need that number, and you can't have more. So you're kind of discouraged from building these, like, huge, sweeping forests or fields at first, but then with some cleverness, you can figure out how to, like, connect them together as the game ends to get more points from certain things that score for the size of them. What I like about it, though, is, or where I think it becomes really compelling, is the campaign aspect of it. So at the end of the game, you total up your score and you get a certain number of points. Those points translate to essentially boxes you can cross off that lead down this, like, branching campaign path that let you unlock physical boxes inside of the game container.
Oh.
Those add new effects, those add rules changes, but the cool thing about it for me is, since you earn more boxes for doing better in the game, you essentially are playing a, like, responsive campaign. So if you're getting lower scores, the game is like, we're not going to make the game more complex until you've had a couple games to really, like, feel your way through this. If you're getting really high scores, the game is like, all right, knock yourself out. This isn't your first time or you've played the video game before, so we're just going to jump right to the first increase in complexity from the boxes. So I think that level of, like, player responsivity, rather than just saying, you played a game, did you win, did you lose? It's how many points did you get and how is that going to impact the subsequent games, makes the game feel like it's responsive to your playstyle.
Interesting. Yeah, because I saw a demo at Gen Con, and I was like, this just looks like the video game? So it didn't really, like, intrigue me, but it looks like, you know, the more you're playing it in that sort of campaign style, that's where it really shines.
Yeah, there are some things it does that the video game doesn't do that I think are particularly, like, smart and interesting, especially around how some of the other, like, fancier tiles work. Though I will say the video game generating a little boat that just goes up and down the river is always going to kind of win out for me. I just think that, like, Dwarf Romantic is one of the best games I've seen in terms of translating a video game to a board game without just making it feel like I'm playing the video game. Like, they're related, but they're not just a clear translation.
It's cooperative too, right? Fully cooperative.
That's what I really like about it as well, is that there's some emergent strategies that start forming as you play, like, 3 or 4 times. Like, I think it's a lot of fun. The only thing that I really didn't like about it was I played the most of it at BGG-Con, and so we had to repack the campaign boxes every time we returned the game, and that actually was. We were trying to be good citizens. Notably, some of the people who took the game out were not as concerned about that as we were, but it was very irritating to be like, all right, here we go, let's repack this whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And then there was also Next Station Tokyo, which was the sequel to Next Station London, right? And yeah, we did play Tokyo, did we?
You're the one who taught it to me.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Must have been real memorable for you.
Yeah.
It was like it's been several months. It was like like last year, very early on. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a flip and write, where the game has, like, these it's like a network of transit systems. You might have different goals of, like, I want to reach the far corners away from the central city, or I need to connect these symbols, or I'm trying to get the most multiple connections from different rounds into this one station and things like that. So a card flips up, that's the symbol that you have to draw from or to. Two. Like a triangle or square, something like that. And then so you have to figure out, okay, I'm going to use these colored pencils to fill in that track, and now that track can't be drawn over again. I've made that connection. And what's kind of fun is, like, every round you have a different color, right? It's like this round we're just doing the purple tracks, and then when that round is over, then the cards reset, and then now I'm going to be drawing green cards, tracks, and so on. And I think all the players are, if I recall, they're staggered, right? So when I'm doing one color, both of you will be doing different colors, and we will rotate through them. And then Yeah, and first time I played it, actually, I didn't. I was like, I think I liked London better because the way Tokyo was laid out was a little bit more.
A little bit more complex.
It's more complex. Yeah. It's like crisscrossing over each other. You have to really think about the different corners that you're trying to reach that are worth more
hates
points.
Thinking, so
yeah, it's like. But the more I played it, the more I liked it. I'm like, okay, this is a pretty cool game. There's a lot of different strategies.
I think it was just like, for me, London was the first time that we played that type of game, and I loved London because when you're done, it's so pretty with the different colored pencils that you're using. So I lost the like wow factor on Tokyo since it was the sequel, but I still enjoyed it a lot too. So
yeah, I think it's very similar to like the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom thing for me, where I'm like, oh, I loved Breath of the Wild when it came out because it was so refreshing and interesting and like game changing for me. I can agree that Tears of the Kingdom is I think Tears of the Kingdom is mechanically a better game and a better overall game, similar to how I think Next Station Tokyo is. But going from not having either to Next Station London was a lot bigger of a gap than going from Next Station London to Next Station Tokyo. And so I think it's just the challenge of like sequel games is sometimes you have that feeling of like, oh, but the first one had like a real impact on me.
Yeah, I think so. That's how I feel about it. Of course, the winner though, Sea Salt and Paper, which has been a pretty continuous purse game for me for like a very long time. For like
that makes sense.
So played it so much on BGA and in person, and it's just, I love the form factor of the box. It's so tiny. I was so worried the American version would be bigger, but it's not, so I'm happy. And just taught it to so many people.
I am a little annoyed because the expansion cards don't fit in the core game box.
Do they not?
It lists a little bit. I think it works fine. We packed the expansion cards in there.
So Sea Salt and Paper is a very like quick card game with really cute origami art, basically, that's supposed to represent different like sea life, like octopuses or like fish or like a boat and stuff like that. So beautifully illustrated with these like origami art things, and each turn is super simple. Really, you're just gonna like take a card either from one of the two discard piles, or you pick two cards from the top of the deck, keep one, get rid of the other. And the fun extra twist, of course, is when you reach at least 7 points, you reach a decision point where you can just keep playing, try to gather more points, or you could just tell everybody to stop, you score what you've got, hopefully you scored better than everybody else. Or you can give everybody else one last chance and hope that you still have the highest number of points, because if you do, then you get a bonus, everybody gets screwed. And so I think that just that little extra twist makes it really fun and different every single time. So, yeah.
For me, it's the like, I love the mermaid cards because they'll give you extra points, but if you can successfully get all 4 mermaid cards, you just win the game immediately.
I still haven't had that happen though.
Done it twice.
What?
You've done it twice?
To be fair, I've played, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 200-ish games on BGA.
I gotta be close to that.
So I'm like BGA, I'm just like, all right, where are the mermaids at?
that's your whole strat. That's all you've got.
I did it twice, I think to the same friend, so he hasn't forgiven me.
Yeah, I've gotten close. I've never gotten all 4.
I had 3s a bunch, but that 4th mermaid never wants to come over to me. So what are you gonna do?
It helps me have the expansion because they have that one pair of cards that lets you like dig through the deck a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This game is gorgeous. Like, it just has this minimalist art. It's somehow like I've been meaning to ask. I should ask sometime. Like, I wonder if these. Because it's hard to tell if these were photographed in a super professional.
Yeah.
Do you know they are photographed? Okay.
Yeah. I
don't know
if they're where I read it,
renders.
but it is I believe actual origami that is set up and photographed.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There's this anglerfish that looks like insanely good. And anyway, I love this thing.
I'd say I'm like 90% sure.
Okay.
Because I also
90%.
have been wondering that for forever.
Yeah, like if anyone's not seen this game, go look at the art, because it's not just someone folded some paper and put it on a table somewhere. It's like they put it in this nice background. Sometimes the background is made of paper as well. It's just absolutely gorgeous, like stunning. I think it's just one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. so easy to play. Like Christina said, it's a purse game. Like she could carry it around with her easily.
I did.
But I played it so much. I went through this period where I think it was like this last BGG con
Had a little bit of
convention
fatigue for
where
you.
I was like, I don't want to play Seas on Paper again. Like we're always playing because we take it everywhere. I've shown it to 1 million people.
I'll still play it.
I've shown it to like non-gamer friends. Like it's just been such a hit with everybody.
Yeah, I
so,
need to teach it to my dad next time I go back home. Like, I feel it's the kind of game he would enjoy. He likes very few games. He likes the crew though, so he at least has some taste.
We love the crew.
Some taste.
Okay, so out of these 5 games, Fit to Print, My Island, Dorf Romantic, Next Station Tokyo, Seas on Paper, who would you personally vote to be at the top?
It's Sea Salt and Paper for me.
Same.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I knew it when I played it at Gen Con before it released. I was just sitting there and I was like, I love this game. This game like, because I was playing it with one of the Studio Bombix folks, and by the end of it we had pair bonded because I'd be like, no, why are you doing this to me? Why are you taking stuff out of my hands? Like, oh, we had so much fun.
Yes. And next we have strategy games.
Yeah, so now we're getting into the heavier stuff.
Okay, heavier stuff. We have nominated for a shuffle, Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall. Recommended, we have Daybreak and The Fox Experiment, and the winner was Thunder Road Vendetta. So what do we think about this strategy game level? And what makes it a strategy game versus the complex game later that we're going to talk about? What do you think, Eric?
Usually it's how much people on BGG threaten to beat me up. But more seriously, I think that the gap between strategy and complex, I think, is one of the hardest ones to say with absolute certainty all the time. Because complexity is a thing that is different for a variety of people, right? Sure. Like, if you say, okay, what about game X? Someone will say, well, I think game X is less complex than game Y. So we have a rough and tumble definition, which is like, usually strategy games are in your like 60 to 90 range. Might be like 45 to 90. Usually
minutes,
complex games are going to be a little bit longer. But then you ask questions
2
like,
hours or more.
But is Betrayal at House on the Hill a complex game? No, stop asking. Like, it's one of those... it's impossible. I find that... Sorry to wax on into this, but I find that taxonomy and taxonomical rules are almost impossible to strictly adhere to, because every question then just boils down to, is this a ravioli? And you're like, well, our board games are ravioli. They've got a starchy outside, and then they've got stuff inside. You're like, ugh. Like,
and then you put tomato sauce on it, and people get mad. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, my whole board game themed commercials never really took off. I was going to use the Fireball Island to make the ultimate like nacho bowl.
You should have your own cooking show. It would be just make the gamers so upset at you.
If I could get the games and destroy them, I absolutely would do that. Like, just be like, what goes great with Dominion? A nice ice cold Pepsi, and just pour it directly into the box. The problem is,
painful.
I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. You feel me?
Yeah.
It's so wasteful.
No. Yeah. But you have just this big troll inside of you that wants to do it. Okay, so let's say, starting with Four Shuffle. I have played a lot of Four Shuffle, and I remember specifically it was Eric Martin from Board Game Geek who just like ran up to me at Gen Con and was like, I heard you like innovation, Christina. You need to play Four Shuffle. Which was a very interesting connect. I was like, okay, definitely will. But I played Four Shuffle and I love it, but it's no innovation.
No, it's not.
I'm just gonna say that. Yeah.
Like when you said that, I was like, I guess in the sense that you tuck cards in multiple ways, but that's like,
So it's a beautiful themed like card game where you are planting some trees, and then those trees will be home for tucking these other animals on either side, maybe some mushrooms on the bottom and like birds on the top of your tree, and you're just trying to find combinations that are going to score better than the other people that you're playing against. Basically, the trees can score, the animals can score. When you find that satisfying combination where it pays off in tons of points, it's great. I've played a lot of it. I still love it, but it is no innovation.
You did hustle me at it quite a few times, but I will also say that was another one of those games that I'm like, I could learn it, or I could let BGA's interface kind of teach me by never reading the rule book. And I still got
That's
there.
how I play more.
I don't think I've read the rule book, but I enjoy it, and I now have a functional understanding of how to play.
There you go. What about you, Shu?
Oh, I think you said it all. Oh, we'll talk more about it, but I absolutely love this game, and I'm really kind of sick of nature-based games. I'm like, there's so
He hates nature.
I was going to say, oh my gosh, I also hate going outside.
I also don't like going outside, but
That's true for him.
it's more because Christina loves nature games, so she buys a lot of them. We get a lot of them sent to us. They've been really exploding in popularity over the last 2 years. But I'm like, man, how many games do we need of like put this thing next to that thing, and then trees will grow, flowers will grow, bears will be happy, and things like that. I just like. Really?
Good understanding of nature. Good understanding of nature.
I just
That's
like
nature.
the
Those are
idea
the
of-
3 tenets of nature.
I just like
right there.
the idea of you on a hike looking at a bear and being like, stupid happy bears.
Look at them walking around as a family unit of 3.
They got
Yeah,
a
I
big
just, like,
bed, a medium bed, and a small bed.
A lot of them feel samey for me, and even for a shuffle, like there are definitely elements that are very similar to other games, but I just like the way this one's done, the pacing of it. They have kind of the surprise in it. You're not sure when it's going to end, and then people start panicking of like because there's 3 random winter cards dealt into the last
Winter is coming.
third of the deck or something like that. And when the third one's drawn, game immediately ends. Like no last turn, no more one more turn, and then that kind of anticipation. It's weirdly exciting, even though people should be annoyed by it. You're like, I have to finish this combo. I need another bat card to put in my trees, or I need another deer or something like that. But yeah, cool game.
I have not played Kinfire Chronicles Night's Fall. Have you?
I actually have not yet. It is on my to-do list, but I have been having...
Yeah.
After I moved, it became very difficult for me to play, like... It's not entirely difficult for me to play board games. I just play a lot more on BGA, because my main game group is still back where I used to live. And so as we're ironing out, like, some of the more, like, bigger box games have been a little bit difficult to get to the table.
Okay. But it is nominated, so I am
This is the only
now.
one the 3 of us can't talk about. Is this the same game that designer Eric Slauson really
it's the same
recommended?
series. It's not the same game that he was talking about. Yeah, he was talking about some other Kinfire one.
Kinfire
the small one?
Chronicles.
Yes, he really let. Where is it? That one?
I think he was talking about this one.
Maybe.
There's
maybe it
Kinfire
was.
Chronicles Night's Fall.
Yeah.
Kinfire Delve.
Nightfall
Kinfire
is
Console?
big, and then Delve, I think, is teeny.
Kinfire Council. Well, that's
He
not
was
out
talking
yet.
about one of. He did make it sound really cool.
I think
so.
it's, I think it's
So
this
maybe
one.
it
I think
was.
it's this
That's
one.
how we should have.
Yeah.
That's how we should have categorized it. We should have just had like instead of complex, we should have just had huge, and then like big, and then like normal size, and then teeny.
Next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Just-
like just literally box size.
Entirely
That's
by
it.
box size. I think that's good. It's smart and has
Yeah.
no long-standing repercussions.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I think this was like 5 episodes ago. Designer Eric Slauson, who did Monstrosity and other
Yeah.
party games, he picked this as his game for
He's
our show.
obsessed with it,
He
so.
loved it, and he made it sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Yeah, he was. We were talking. I was talking about the last like council meeting. There's just a bunch of board game Erics. We just
Yes.
run the entire industry from the shadows.
Oh,
Me,
interesting.
Lang, Slauson, Eric Martin. Like
You should just change your name to Eric. I'm going to change my name to Eric.
we've
Whatever.
told
I want
people
the
that as
power.
long as they're
I want
willing
the
to do
power.
that legally, they are welcome to join.
Yeah. Okay.
Like we're not discriminating. We just have one rule
It has to be Eric.
Yeah.
Okay.
with a C though. We're not, you know.
Don't be gross. Yeah.
It's just how it works.
And recommended, we had Daybreak and the Fox Experiment. I actually pretty recently just played Fox Experiment again. I've played it several times, and I just love. So in this game by Elizabeth Hargrave, that is based off of the real fox experiments that are still ongoing in Siberia. They were very revolutionary in terms of genetics, the politics behind it, fascinating and crazy, because it started during the Soviet era. And in general, like basically, you are running this fox fox experiment. You're trying to get these particular traits, but the fun part is you are putting these traits on these little fox pups, and then they grow up, and then they can make their own fox puppies, and they're all on these dry erase boards, and you get to name your fox. And that's my favorite part. I give them great, weird names, and it's fun times. You chuck a bunch of dice, and you make some foxes, and they're super cute. So I like the fox experiment.
Okay, difficult question.
Yeah.
On the spectrum from Zootopia to Robin Hood, where would you put these foxes?
I mean, like, I don't have a crush on these foxes. I know some people have had that with the Robin Hood foxes. Girl, yeah.
Weird
it's a whole
thing to bring up specifically, but hey, I super believe you. Like, hey, you introduced that information, not me, and we can all just leave it there unless you want to talk more about that.
No, they're cute. Anyway, it's a really cool science experiment.
Yeah, but they are based. They're not cartoon. Foxes walking on hind
Some
legs.
are spotted. And
They're all like realistic looking foxes. And stuff like
yeah.
I just have so many more questions about the first thing, but I
don't worry
understand we're on
about
time.
Yeah.
And I've been meaning to play Daybreak, but we haven't had the chance
you haven't
to.
played
But
Daybreak
it's the
yet?
no,
Oh, man.
I know.
I love Daybreak.
Can you tell us about it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, Daybreak is a cooperative game where players are leveraging current and future technologies and policies to try and solve the problem of an ongoing and changing climate. So, as global temperatures rise, your goal is to use emerging green technologies to slowly pump that bad boy back down by reducing emissions, handling the energy output of complex nations, and occasionally just drawing way too many cards. Like, that entire game is just so good because you can draw I think I drew 45 cards in one turn, and I was like, I'm better than the climate.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, I played it probably 50 or 60 times at this point. It's one of the few standing games I have on BGA with a couple of my friends. So I've got standing Daybreak game, standing Burgle Bros game, and a couple standing Sea Salt and Paper games. I think and Turing Machine. And I'm glad that Daybreak's in the rotation. I'm feeling myself like I've seen about all there is to see, I think.
But you've solved climate change.
Yeah, I have personally.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's just like I solved the shipping crisis a couple years ago. But yeah, it's very much like I now know what cards I'm looking for each game, but the struggle of trying to balance that against some of the cards that make the game more difficult, or certain country conditions that make my country more difficult to change in some ways or others. I have to reduce car emissions pretty heavily if I'm in the United States, but if I'm playing as China, there's a lot of factory emissions that I have to worry about and not quite so many cars. And it's a very fun game, but the thing that I like the most about it, and the reason why it's really high up there for me, is that, so I contrast with a game like Pandemic, where you're trying to work together cooperatively to solve these emergence of 4 major diseases that are running hog wild across the planet. Yeah. Pandemic, I always feel like I'm behind the 8 ball. We're struggling, we're losing, and everything's bad. Daybreak, we might lose, but it feels like we're consistently making forward progress. There's a lot of games that we lose because the game only lasts 6 rounds and then you're done. So you're just like, if I had just had one more round, we would have gotten it. Or we got taken out by having too many communities in crisis, but we were making good progress. And you can see the trajectory of how you need to get there. And it makes the game feel more achievable, even though it's more difficult. Or not more difficult than Pandemic, obviously, but even though it is fairly difficult.
Interesting. Yeah. That was another one of our guests game pick a few episodes ago. Alex from Might I Suggest a Game?
Yes.
Picked it as well as the game he brought to the show. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
And the winner was Thunder Road Vendetta. So we played it. I played it once, and it was fun times. It was sort of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Racing game where it's you're just purposefully getting in each other's way, basically, right?
Yeah.
How much have you played Thunder Road?
I actually haven't gotten a chance to yet.
Okay.
It reminds me very much of somewhere between Mad Max and Burnout Revenge, which is one of my old
Burnout Revenge.
Yeah,
I love that game.
Burnout.
That video game.
Yeah, it's an older video game where you would just crash your car into as many things as possible, and once you crashed your car, a chorus of people would start chanting Crash Breaker as you rotated the stick to charge up your engine, and then your car would explode, and if you took out anyone in the explosion, your car would be right back on the highway at top speed. And so you were
It's how
encouraged to
physics
crash
works.
in the most heinous ways possible.
And to be clear to the audience, this is a video game we're talking about.
Yes.
A video game
yeah,
I
Thunder
miss.
Thunder Road Vendetta, basically, thanks to our friend James Hudson, who brought it over and showed it to us. There's this kind of moving track, like it's just like a line of tracks, like of roads that are connected by. This is the board, and then when everyone kind of rolls off of one, you take the last piece and you can move it ahead if you want to keep the road going. But there are obstacles like oil slicks, there's rocks, and then everyone will draft different kind of upgrades for their car that will let them do certain things like cheat or roll or skip places or aim their guns differently. And then you're just, it is very Mad Max in terms of the feel of like, can I position myself in a way to crash into cars to kind
And
of
shoot the other cars?
were there guns in that
I
game?
don't know. I can't remember.
I mean, there were helicopters that you could put in there that will attack cars.
Maybe
So
it was
they
that.
they have guns.
They are natural enemies.
Yeah, cars and helicopters.
Yeah,
well,
like-
everyone had
Predated.
helicopters.
Yeah,
Everyone had
yeah,
cars.
like it's very, it's like a very like what is it like mongoose and the snakes thing.
And the snake,
Cars
yeah.
and helicopters just natural.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks really cool on the table because it's like a lot of 3D pieces
Yeah.
with the cars and everything like that. So it is an old game too, right? It's like all other restoration games where they take a classic game from decades ago and then revamp it and update the rules and update the components and everything.
Yeah, and
So
it seems to have
I
gone
never
over
played the original either.
extremely well. Like just
Yeah.
like I've heard I've heard almost nothing but praise for it, and the people I haven't heard
friends who
praise
have
from,
it,
have just not said
they
anything
love it.
about it. Yeah, no, it looks. I've heard really good things pretty much across the board. So yeah, I'm very much still pushing for restoration to go restore my favorite childhood game, Careers, and I have been told stop asking. So
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed my one play, but never played it enough to really dig into it. So,
Yeah.
what would you pick from this category if your vote was all that mattered?
God, the dream. I'd probably still go Daybreak here. I think that thematically it's a very game of the now. I like the positive aspect of, like I said, how it presents it not as something that, like, the one plastic straw that you have is probably not going to be the thing that tips the climate or not.
Yeah.
But it is like if countries can get their collective acts together and like take steps with technology, they can reduce emissions pretty strongly. And I like the game presenting like a valid case for that. And I just think it is a very nice and fun game to play, and the player abilities that you can get when you like get all the cards aligned end up being ridiculous. Like in terms of just like, cool, great, I'm gonna get like 20 green energy this round, which is a lot. So it's great. That's how we actually measure energy. It's just in units of energy. So just a little. That's a lot of energy pile.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about you, Shu?
just like real life.
Your pick.
Forest Shuffle is the one I voted for, and then that is out of these 5 games, that's my favorite. I think with the Fox Experiment coming in second. But I haven't played Daybreak, I haven't played Campfire Chronicles, so but I really love Forest Shuffle, and I've shown that to a lot of people. I've played it a lot on both Board Game Arena and in real life, so that's my pick.
Yeah, Forest Shuffle is also a solid one. That probably would have been my second choice.
Yeah. Now that you semi know how to play
Yeah,
functionally.
I have a very solid, vague understanding.
Okay, great. I think you won sometimes.
I think so.
There you go.
Which, it's not as bad as the time my friend played Lost Words of Arnak, and that was her second game ever, and she'd never read the rule book and was just doing whatever BGA allowed her to do, and she won. And I'm like, oh, that hurts actually.
And our,
What's your pick?
I'd say Forest Shuffle
Yeah.
also. Yes. Are you trying to prove that we would have voted the same
We have
way
one more game, one more category to go to see if I voted correctly with what Christina would have told me to vote.
I didn't realize I was doing couples therapy. I would have worn a better shirt.
And our final game, types of games, are the complex games, of course. So nominated were Dune Imperium Uprising and Motor City. Recommended were Nucleum and Earth. And the winner was the White Castle, not the Hamburger Place. So, yes.
Yeah, if the hamburger place had won, I feel like we all would have been losers, but that's because I ate there like one too many times when my sister was in college, and
I love the White Castle.
He will argue against that on for you.
No, or White Castle. Okay, not many of the games.
Yeah, I want to call Dune Imperium Doomperium personally. So yeah, and then I actually have not played Uprising yet, but I know Shu has.
Yeah, basically, if you play Dune Imperium, the first game, it's a worker placement game and a deck building game built into one, where you're going to different parts of the planet to either collect, if you're familiar with the lore, you're like collecting spice, or you're collecting credits, and you're getting the favors of the Bene Gesserit and the Space Mining Guild, or not the Space Mining Guild, what is that called? Anyways.
The Spacing Guild?
The Spacing Guild, something like that.
Do you get to put your hand in the pain box? That's all I know about Dune.
No.
We did a personal upgrade for
That's
our...
good.
Yeah, we built our own hand pain box.
That's good.
Yeah, so have you played Dune Imperium, Eric? Okay.
No, I would like
yeah.
to, but I haven't gotten a chance to.
Yeah, I love Dune Imperium, but it runs long. It's a 2-3 hour game,
Right.
Yeah.
And then so Uprising, I remember when I first started reading the rules, I'm like, this is kind of basically the same game. It just added a few things. If you played the original Dune Imperium, you're already 95% of the way there with some of these new additions. Like again, probably technically better, but very much feels the same as Dune Imperium.
And I'm surprised that Motor City was nominated in Complex Games, as that is a roll and write. There are dice in there from the team that put out one of my favorite roll and writes, the Fleet, the dice game, and they did Three Sisters and the new Orleans one, French Quarter.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that always goes back to like I said, those category definitions can be a little wibbly-woobly, though I will say, of the roll-in rights, right, Motor City is definitely one of the most complex ones I've played. I do like Motor City a lot.
I definitely agree. Yeah, I think all their games are
definitely more complex roll-in rights, for sure.
Fleet the Dice game almost made me tear up, because I was just like, Suzanne, I don't know what I'm doing. Why do I want all these fish?
Why would you not want the fish? It's just obvious.
I don't know what to do with all these fish.
Yeah, so I felt that Motor City was in some ways, like, the smoothest of the three, of the ones that I had played up to then, at that point. And it's, the main thing for me was thematically, I don't care about building cars that much. but it was a good time, and I enjoyed Motor City. So you're building up your best, most efficient automaking plant in Denver.
Detroit?
Detroit.
Denver.
Not Denver. It's a D city. Detroit.
Denver.
No, they might make
auto
some
capital
cars.
of
Detroit.
That's why they call it the Mile High City, is because the roads they use stretch all the way up to Denver.
Sure.
A mile high.
There's cars that pile up a mile high.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
So no one's gonna trust me about anything anymore. But yeah, I enjoyed Motor City. I don't know if I would put it as a complex game, but yeah, definitely complex for a roll and write. So it was enjoyable. And recommended, we had Earth, which I have played, which was a big sort of tableau builder. That you want to describe, Shu?
This is one of those games I'm like, there's too many of. Another nature-based game where it's like it's rewarding you for placing certain cards next to other cards. I do like it. I think it's one of the better ones. But you could develop this engine where, like, when you pick an action, you get a main action and a secondary action. Everyone else gets that secondary action. And it could trigger a bunch of things, like all of your trees will grow one in size, or you'll develop a bunch of sprouts, and they all give you points. You can spend one to do the other things. And so there's a lot of different combos you can create, and you can build this cool engine of like the cards from left to right, up and down, all the rows in this big 4x4 tableau you're building can trigger in different ways. So that is I think the interesting part of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it never quite clicked super well for me. Like, I mean, it's fine, but I never, like, found myself super excited to play that game. So, I don't know why.
That's fair. I think
it just didn't really hit for me.
I just generally always come to that same place. Like, complex engine building games are always pretty rough for my game groups, because my game groups, bless them, are often learning new games. And anytime I try to teach them anything...
Because why?
Yeah, right?
Because of you.
Yeah. I have apologized. But every time I try to teach them an engine building game, a lot of times it comes down to just who has read the most cards, or who understands, or who got... and I get that that's a critique of, complex engine builders as a genre, and this even goes back to, terraforming Mars and, adjacent games in that space, but it is a problem that I have a lot, so I tend to stay away from the more engine-buildy games.
And then Nucleum, I did play several times and taught it, and Nucleum is a real heavy game about an alternate reality where we discovered nuclear power way earlier, and you are trying to power up a lot of places in this alternate steampunk Germany, somewhere in Europe, I don't remember.
You're having a great day for geography.
Yeah, geography is not my specialty at trivia. It's fine. But yeah, when I was being taught it the first time by Daniel from the game table, I was just like, oh, this is like brass. Oh, that's so brassy. Very much reminded me of Brass, which is very high on the BGG, top games, ranked games ever. And I really, really enjoy Nucleum. It's extremely heavy. You have to build out a whole system that can bring the power to the places that you need to power up. So you have to worry about things being in your network. You have to make sure that they're connected. You have to make sure you have enough resources, but it's got this really fascinating action mechanism where you have these action tiles, and the more you lay out, the better your income's going to be, but at the same time you'd have to watch out for the tempo of how you're going to play your actions and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. I taught it to several people. The first time I taught it, I got a major rule wrong, so that's going to stick with me too.
That's just something you'll think about every time you go to sleep for the next 3 years. It's fine.
Yes.
But yeah,
I will never teach that part wrong again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're looking for a good merch idea, though, I do like the idea of y'all selling a sticker that says "so brassy," and you can just slap it on any complex game that you want. You're like, "Oh, so brassy."
Have you played Nucleum?
I have not, though. I will say, just from I hear a lot of things about games, right? Just you go to cons, you hang out with other folks, you listen to what people are talking about. I actually thought Nucleum was going to win. Mm-hmm. I was genuinely surprised that it did not. I guess that is, again, one of the quirks of ranked choice voting, is that even if a lot of people, it's not necessarily a lot of people liked X game the most, but enough people liked X game more than Y game that it bumped it up in the rankings. So yeah, I think the people who I know who like Nucleum are very, very passionate about Nucleum.
Yes.
Which is good.
Because what did win was the White Castle from DeVere Games. And we did have a chance to play that with Grant Lyon. Correct, Grant. And it's a very tight, small box game, which DeVere loves to do. And they're very small boxes, lots of game in them. And it's from the same design partnership that did Red Cathedral also. And so White Castle, you are building out the White Castle in Japan. I forget which castle it was.
Is it Himeji?
But yes. That sounds right. I think it was Himeji. And yeah, you have only, how many actions in the whole game? It's
9.
9 total actions. I mean, you're aiming to make things combo and stuff like that, but it's literally just 9 actions for the whole game, and it still takes a good amount of time. So all the different ways that the actions intertwine and the scoring sort of combos off of each other, really interesting puzzle to play. I think. Yeah. What did you get a chance to play that?
I have
Eric?
not, though. I'm familiar with it. I'm mostly I think the question that comes to my mind is, does this mean that we're seeing a series of just major buildings with a color in the name? Because they've got the Red Cathedral, they've got the White Castle.
Yes.
It does seem like there is a trend forming here, which I'm interested in, right? That's a...
Yeah, where will they go next?
Yeah, that's a fun thing that you can do.
But they did Three Ring Circus, which also kind of fits in the same category without the color in its name.
Was that the same designers?
Oh, you're saying for
I'm
the
talking
designer. I thought, because that's
DeVere
the same...
puts out a lot of
DeVere
stuff.
puts out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same size box as White Castle.
Oh, really?
But...
I thought... Oh, okay. Huh. I thought Three Ring Circus was big for some reason.
No, it's also pretty small.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but very different designers.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think.
looking at White Castle on the shelf right now, and it has a very nice I like though that for a complex game it can have such a small overall box footprint. Like not necessarily that they have to be large, but it is nice to see something that you can port or port around. I'm not sure if
I might be wrong on that. White Castle might be the same size as Red
It
Cathedral.
is, yeah.
Now that I think about
Yeah,
it. Okay,
that
sorry.
sounds right.
Three Ring Circus is a square box.
So
Not
never
important.
believe
You've made
Not at all.
you've made a fool of me on your podcast.
I made a fool of myself. But, well, I'll give you this, Eric. You did get Himeji Castle right. So
Okay.
that was impressive that you figured that out.
I definitely read the BGG description before this, just in case, but I will take the praise. I feel like the real question I have is, I feel like there was a Lego set for it that just came out recently.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Lego's been having a good year. But,
They have.
yeah, no, I am impressed that there's a good variety of what DeVire's pushing out, so I'm looking forward to getting a chance to dive into more of those games as I, rebuild my, Seattle-based gaming group.
I like White Castle. I think one of the cool mechanisms they had was, there's 3 different colored dice that were laid out on a bridge. When we rolled them as a group, you're drafting from these bridges, but for each color you can only take the lowest number or the highest number of the one, and each will give you different benefits. Like there's sometimes you do want a low number, sometimes you want a high number. That was the best part of the game by far. But even though Grant, who taught us the game, warned us, is like, there's only 9 rounds in this game. You better figure out what you want to do. And the game length, I was kind of, on one hand, glad, okay, I'm glad this isn't a 3-4 hour game. It's like we were done in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that was great. But 9 turns, it just did not feel like enough. It just wasn't satisfactory for me. I don't know what you thought.
I think, it does build up to where you can start seeing, okay, well, if I do this, it combos here, and I get this auxiliary action here, something like that along those lines. And it was good. For me, I really liked Red Cathedral a lot more than White Castle.
Same.
From the same, design group. So for me, it just didn't quite reach the heights. I really liked the resource collection in Red Cathedral more, and that sort of was very satisfying, and it was a puzzle that I liked more than the White Castle puzzle. So that's all.
That's fair. Hopefully the next color game group thing will reach those heights again.
Yeah, yellow bouncy castle, whatever's coming next. Who knows? So for me personally, I would have voted Nucleum.
Out of these 5?
Yes.
I'm 99% sure out of those 5 I voted Nucleum the highest, which makes me officially 4 for 4 in terms of knowing what Christina would have voted.
But
Or
the principle
voting-
is still there
voting-
that you did not consult me. And
voting
so
how
here
Christina
we are.
Well, the problem is it's still ranked choice though, and
Yes. Did you rank it
those second
correctly?
and third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh place choices can make a downstream difference. So
I don't remember
the question
what
is,
I voted.
did you
number
vote
one. Yeah.
for? Did you vote for every possible configuration the way that Christina would have voted?
Yeah.
Survey
that's true, that's
says
true.
Yeah.
probably.
Probably not.
Yeah. And what would you have picked as the winner here, Eric?
See, when it comes to complex games, I'm more of the I'd like to take a nap kind of guy, but I probably would.
Do you just refrain from voting?
No, I still vote.
You vote
There's
for the ones?
almost always some complex games that I have a strong opinion on in one way or another.
Okay.
And I probably would have gone Motor City here. I think I did, in fact, go Motor City here. Was because I was like, I actually really enjoyed Motor City when I played.
I did too.
I like the flow of it. I like how many different things there are to do, and it felt like all of my actions had a good. To sort of complement your statement on the White Castle, I felt like by the time the game ended, I had done enough things. Like I got a full tour of the game by the end of it. Yeah.
So that's how we feel or you feel as members of the committee. But all very good games that were nominated, obviously, that made it this far, because from each group there were 7 to ranked choice, typically. Is that right?
Yeah, we usually have
At least
2 rounds. So the first round you'll have nominations, and everyone can put up about 5, which means that from there we have anywhere between... I usually think it's about 20 to 35 games per category. There's a theoretical maximum of, I think, 55 here, but there is almost no chance that everyone will not have at least one game overlap of their 5. Yeah, so, and then from there we distill it down to like, I think it's 8 or 10 usually finalists. I just look at whatever number I used last year. I don't remember it offhand. But then from there, that way we do one final ranking. Naturally, round 2 is much easier than round 1, because in round 1, Google Forms.
It's a lot of games.
Well, that and Google Forms is just not well set up for this kind of like voting process. I'd prefer if it was just every game's title and the number you want to give it, but that would lead to so many people just selecting the wrong number.
Yeah. But that's democracy with ranked choice voting for you, everybody.
That and the lack of a Fortiset winner, but I'll leave that as an exercise for our listeners.
And so lots of games for our listeners to discover thanks to this list also. And thanks so much for joining us today, Eric. Had a lot of fun talking to you.
Yeah,
and thanks for, that couples therapy session.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I don't know if we resolved anything.
I do charge like $3.50 an hour though.
But you're not wearing a nicer shirt,
yeah.
So there's gonna be.
But I always round up on hours, so we did go over the 1 hour mark, so it is a 2 hour thing.
Okay,
but
so that's $7 total.
No, $700.
Not too bad.
And where can people follow you and get their couples therapy and see what you're up to?
Gosh, I've been on a bit of a social media cleanse lately, which has been great for my skin, but bad for my reach. But when I'm actually posting fairly actively, I'd say the best place to find what I'm working on right now is at what'sericplaying.com. So that's where I post my reviews. Usually post 2 a week on Monday mornings. And then for all other related inquiries, you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at What's Playing, and then I still am on Instagram at What's Eric Playing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And everybody can Google the American Tabletop Awards, and you can find the list here and previous years of previous winners of fantastic games too.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, everybody. Please subscribe and rate our podcast if you've been enjoying it. It helps other like-minded gamers find us. And thanks to our amazing editor, Mike Zipkin. Now you can stop listening and go play a game, maybe an ATTA winner. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Say bye, Eric.
Oh, bye, Eric.